So today we are talking about the last of 5.3.
Day 2.
Yeah. Okay. So the next thing we're going to talk about is a reference angle. It's an angle that forms an acute angle with the horizontal axis, so the one that is right here. And the terminal side of any angle. So what I can do is I can use a reference angle to find trig values instead of the actual angle it gives me. So this first one is if it's between, if it's in the second quadrant, then I want to take the number and subtract from 180. Or if I'm with radians, I'm going to subtract from pi. You want to keep it if it gives you in radians. You want to keep it in radians. Because the more we go on in this class, the more we're going to use radians, and the less we're going to use degrees. Okay? So then if it's in the third quadrant, you're going to take the number and subtract 180. And again, if it's in radians, you're going to take the angle and subtract pi. And then if we're in the fourth quadrant, you're going to take 360 and subtract your angle. Or if we're in radians, 2 pi and subtract your angle. That's not that bad. And you'll never be asked for a reference angle in the first quadrant because it's always itself. Okay. Okay. So then number 1 wants me to find the reference angle for 300. So which of these quadrants is 300 in? Quadrant 4. So I want to use the rule for quadrant 4. I'm going to take 360 and subtract 300. Okay, so that gets me 60 degrees. That's my final answer here. That's for when I'm in radians. Yeah? No, it'll give it to you in radians. I don't know what pie chart you're talking about.
It's called the unit circle.
The unit circle?
It's like the radian translation.
So we'll get to the unit circle, but I'll teach you tricks so you don't have to, like, remember the whole circle. Okay, so the next one is, guys, the next one gives me it in radians. So this is 0. Number pi is 3.14, and 2 pi is 6.28. So number 2 is given to me in radians. I can tell because it doesn't have a degree symbol. So which quadrant is this in? Number 2. 2. So I want to use the rule for number 2. Number 2. Let's point to the right one. So I'm going to take pi and subtract 2.3. Because this is given to me with 1 decimal place, I want to give my answer back as 1 decimal. So I want to type in the calculator pi minus 2.3. 1 decimal place. Is it 0.8?
0.8415.
Oh, yeah. 0.8. Questions on number 2? No, I want to do 1 decimal place. Because the angle, or the radian was given to me as 1 decimal place. I want to match what they gave me. Okay. Number 3, this one, it gives it to me as a negative degree. Negative 135 is, yeah, it goes the opposite way. It's right here. So I really want to find this angle measure right here. So the way I can do this is I can take 180 and subtract the 135. So 180 minus 135 is 25. Questions here? Okay, so then on the back side I have 3 trig functions and it wants me to evaluate them using reference angles and then give my answer in exact form. So cosine 4 pi thirds is here in the second, nope, that's third quadrant. So what I want to do is I want to rewrite this as cosine of its reference angle. Because it is in the third quadrant, I want to do 4 pi thirds minus pi. So if I factor out my pi, I have 4 thirds minus 1. I actually don't want the word cosine there right yet. So what's 4 thirds minus 1? No. So if I can't remember how to do 4 thirds minus 1 in my head, I can use a calculator. And then I go math, fraction, to turn it back in to a fraction. It's 1/3. So this is really pi thirds. So I'm trying to figure out cosine of pi thirds. If you pull out your notes from 5.2 day 1, remember that chart where we had all of the degrees? I should have my calculator.
Why is it in the third quadrant?
Because that's where 4 pi thirds is. It's more than 1. So if I remember this chart, I want to find cosine of pi thirds. So cosine of pi thirds is no. Cosine 1/2. Okay. So this equals 1/2. But remember yesterday we talked about the different, like where it's positive? Is cosine positive in quadrant 3? No. So then my answer here should be negative 1/2. Questions there? Okay. So same deal for number 8. Negative 210 is here. So to find this reference angle, I'm going to take 210 and subtract 180 because I want to find the difference between here and here. No. So this gives me 30. So tangent of 30, according to this chart, I would memorize this chart for the quiz. And if you watch the video for these notes, I talk about how I was able to fill in the numbers. So tangent of 30 is what? Okay, should this be positive or negative? Negative. Because in that quadrant, only sign is positive. Okay, so this one, 11 pi fourths is between 5 pi halves and 3. To check this, I can do 5 divided by 2, which is 2.5. And then if I do 11 divided by 4, it's 2.7. Oh, that's off the screen. 2.75. So 11 fourths is more than 2.5, but less than 3. So this puts this in the second quadrant. What is my rule for finding the angle in the second quadrant? No. My rules from the beginning of the notes. I'm in pi. So I'm in the second quadrant. I want to do pi minus that. So what is the problem with this angle? No. No. It's more than 2. Okay? So what I first want to do is I'm going to do 11 pi fourths minus 2 pi. So if I pull out my pi's, I have 11 pi, or no, just 11 fourths minus 2, which is, what's 11 fourths minus 2? 3 fourths. And then now I can use my rule. So I'm going to use pi minus 3 pi fourths, which if I pull out pi again, 1 minus 3 pi fourths is 1/4. So then I'm really finding cosecant of pi fourths. Cosecant is the reciprocal of which one? Sine. So if I look back at this chart, I first want to find sine of pi fourths, which is square root of 2 over 2. Cosecant is going to flip that. So it's going to be 2 over square root of 2. So should I leave that square root of 2 on the bottom? I want to rationalize it. So I get 2 square root of 2 over 2. Should I leave it like that? It simplifies to just the square root of 2. And in the second quadrant is sine positive. Yes. So cosecant, because it's just flipping my numbers from sine, is also positive here. So this is my final answer.